What is going on, everybody? My name is Chimpag, and today I'm going to be doing the power rankings after the draft. So I just want to preface this with saying that I'm only going to be doing the top 10 because doing it for all the teams, it would just take so long, as well as the fact that I don't really know how strong some of these teams are going to actually be because of just the matchups. There are so many different ways to build a team in this format because there's not a whole lot of these teams that these coaches have picked are typically going to be worse, I believe, than a team they would normally pick because of the lack of variety that they can have on their team. Because if you look at a lot of these teams, their hazard removal and their stealth rockers are limited. They don't have the greatest stealth rockers. They only have 1 or 2 stealth rockers. They don't have the best hazard removal in their teams. So that's why I decided to do a top 10. And because of the fact that there's not a whole lot of great hazard removers, I'm also going to be a little bit more lenient to teams that don't have the greatest hazard removals, but at the same time Pokemon that are pretty vulnerable to hazard. So if your team has like Arcanine Moltres and a couple other Stealth Rock weak Pokemon, I'm going to be a little bit more lenient to you because there are some teams that just have a poor ground type as their main stealth rock user, and they have to bring it every week. And being able to capitalize on that as a team that has like Articuno, Kyurem, etc., Pokemon with rock weeks, it's a little bit more easier to deal with if they only have one stealth rocker that you know that they have to bring. It's going to be a little bit easier for you mentally to deal with it. So team number 10, I have the South Texas SABLEYES. I really like this team. Tapu Bulu Hawlucha is a great core. Mew's an incredible Pokemon, very versatile. Nidoking's got to be one of the best value picks in Tier 2. Got Vantula with the sticky webs. And here, like I mentioned before, I'm a little bit more lenient to having a team with Stealth Rock weak. Because if you look at this Vivid's team, he has Mew as a Stealth Rocker, Nidoking as a Stealth Rocker, Sandslash Alola as a Stealth Rocker, and Barbaracle. These two Pokemon right here, Sandslash and Barbaracle, aren't the greatest Stealth Rock setters. And Nidoking, it's decent setting up Stealth Rock, but for the most part, I believe Nidoking should be attacking with Sludge Wave, Ice Beam, Flamethrower, etc., and not setting up Stealth Rock. And Mew is also in the same boat as Nidoking, but it's also very, very, very good at setting up Stealth Rock because of its fantastic move pool and great stats. So it's slightly better Stealth Rock in my opinion than Nidoking because of that. Even though it can do so many more things, it has access to, I believe, its signature Z move, so it's going to be very, very difficult to deal with if you don't prep for it properly. And then Sharpedo is a great mega pick for him. It's his team has great speed with Sticky Web and just naturally good speed with Hawlucha. Bulu can go Scarf, Mew can go Rock Polish, Nidoking can go Scarf. These two Pokemon have great speed numbers. Like these two Pokemon that he has, Sandslash and Barbaracle, are pretty much the only two slow Pokemon on his team. And when you factor in the fact that he can go for Sticky Web to support these a lot better, and Barbaracle can also just go for a Shell Smash, his speed is actually just incredible. And like I said, just hazard removal isn't that great because he's got to rely on these three mainly. I don't think you really want to be using Mew as hazard removal on his team just because of the fact that he has Tapu Bulu, Hawlucha, and those are great offensive threats, and if Mew can weaken opposing threats so that Hawlucha and Bulu can be able to just destroy the rest of their team, I believe that Mew should be typically more offensive against the rest of the teams in the league. And honestly, I feel like this is just a great solid team. Unfortunately, he does have these Stealth Rock weak Pokemon, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Great party here as well, and honestly I feel like this is just a very solid team. I love Bulu, as some of you guys may know, and Hawlucha is actually incredibly versatile. It doesn't always have to go with the Unburdened set, so this is my number 10 team. So number 9 I have Envy. So I don't like the fact that Envy has to run Registeel and Dugtrio as his Stealth Rock setters. He kind of relies a lot on setup to be able to do his damages. Victini and Azu are pretty much the main heavy hitters on his team. Dugtrio is great in certain matchups, because the powerful Earthquake, but if you're gonna have to rely on Stone Edge and Sucker Punch and Night Slash to be able to hit things, it's not the greatest. But Heracross is actually incredible when you have Azu and Victini just weakening their team, Dugtrio trapping certain threats. I really like the pick of Heracross along with Dugtrio and these two Pokemon. Ditto's an incredible revenge killer. I don't know how well it's going to do on Envy's team though, because I don't know how much he's going to really allow his opponents to set up, but I guess if he's running a lot of choice Pokemon, it baits them into setting up. I really like the pick of the Mega Sceptile here. It's a great tier 3 Mega. I don't believe that this should be in the tier 3 slot, but it's so good. 145 speed, you don't need to invest in all that speed, so essentially it just becomes so much more bulkier, and 70, 75, 85 defenses are pretty average. But when you invest a lot of the speed into its defenses, it becomes just so much better. It has access to Sword Stance, decent coverage in its physical side. The special side is a little bit middling, but you'll have to do with that. I don't like the fact that Envy is only using, like I said, the two Stealth Rockers. He has no other way of spiking or sticky webbing. Drapion is using Toxic Spikes sometimes, but other than that, I feel like it's a solid team. Togekiss can somewhat hit hard sometimes, because the reason why I didn't put Togekiss and Azu and Victini in the same category is because Togekiss doesn't really hit Pokemon that hard with its other stab typing. Dazzling Gleam isn't the greatest fairy move. Air Slash is incredible. Like, I say Victini is incredible because Blue Flare, V-Create are such incredible attacks. Searing Shot's also amazing as well. Superpower, Aqua Jet is incredible for picking things off. Play Rough, Liquidation, Waterfall, Knockoff. Like, these Pokemon hit so hard, but meanwhile Togekiss has to rely on Nasty Plot and Air Slash to really be doing most of its damage. Yeah, I can use coverage with Flamethrower and Aura Sphere, but Aura Sphere not stab is not going to be the strongest attack. So I have Envy at number 9. Number 8, I have Leo. The reason why I have Leo this low, I mean, he's not really that low. He's in the top 10, but he's at the bottom of the top 10, is because his Stealth Rock user is Cradily and Steelix. I don't think that you should be wanting to bring them every week. And his hazard removal is also pretty bad. It's Cryogonal and Sub-Valley, essentially. You don't want to be using your Dragonite to be able to defog, because it's the main thing that you're going to want to defog with. But the reason why I even have Leo in the top 10 is because his offensive Pokemon are just so good. Reuniclus is a win con almost every time. Manaphy's a win con. Curse, Alola Muck with Gluttony is such an annoying Pokemon to deal with. Dragonite under the right settings, it's going to be very difficult to take down. I don't think Dragonite is the best tier 1 Mega, but I mean Mega. I don't think Dragonite is the best win con, but it's very versatile. Agility sets with weakness policy. You can go physical and special. If you set up a Rain Dance with Manaphy, you're able to use Hurricane, Thunder, and Surf, Waterfall, etc, etc. It's a very good Pokemon. Durant is an incredible Z-move user. I really love the Mega Lopunny. I mean, obviously everyone knows how good Mega Lopunny is. The ability to use Power Up Punch with Baton Pass into one of these other Pokemon is going to be pretty nice if he does decide to do that. The problem with Lopunny is that obviously sometimes you're forced to use Low Kick or Drain Punch if you are prepared for Protect or stuff like that. I like Steelix as a pick here, but I don't really feel like he has another defensive Pokemon to really back up the Steelix. Steelix is obviously a great defensive Pokemon, but I don't think Cryogonal's great Pokemon to back it up. I feel like having a regen Pokemon with AV, I guess if he goes Reuniclus with Steelix, that would be great, but I don't like regen Reuniclus in general. That's just my bias. But honestly, just a very solid team. I just wish that Leo had better hazard control, and that's the reason, like I said in the beginning, that I don't punish players for having Pokemon that are weak to hazards, because I have Leo in the top 10, right? And his hazard setters are Steelix and Cradily. Those are not good hazard setters. Steelix is actually pretty good, but having to bring Steelix into a game to set up hazards isn't the greatest, because its weaknesses to fire and water are very easily exploitable. Obviously, you can take on the earthquakes and the physical water moves, but other than that, it's going to be very easy to take down, and You're only going to be able to do what, a little bit of like 40% with Stealth Rock if they are able to defog or rapid spin away the hazards. So it's not the greatest, but at the same time, if they are defogging away your hazards, that means that there's probably not hazards for Dragonite. And then number 7, I have the PITTSBURGH PICHUS Nexus. I don't think his team is that good overall, but some of the Pokemon that he drafted are so amazing. Mega Medicham paired with Exploud are just incredible wall breakers. Exploud as a tier 4 pick is just so incredible. There's not many Pokemon that you can really switch into Exploud. And the Boom Burst, it's just so good. He has decent support on his team in his middling tier. I say middling. In his non like amazing tier 1 slots. I don't really think Goodra's that good of a Pokemon. Tangrowth is amazing. Goodra's one of those Pokemon where you want to be able to weaken their team a little bit and be able to sweep with something like Agility Zapdos later on in the game. But with him having Exploud and Medicham, I feel like Medicham is going to be able to OHKO things. Exploud is just going to be able to possibly OHKO a lot of other things, or just deal a lot of chip damage. And he doesn't really have that late game sweeper outside of like an Agility Zapdos to be able to take advantage of the fact that he has these Pokemon that just deal a little bit of chip damage with Goodra and Tangrowth and Doublade and Swampert. So that's the reason why he's not in my top 5. His Stealth Rock user is Swampert and Clefairy, which is, like I said, not the greatest. He does have good Toxic. Does Skuntank does not get Toxic Spice? Oh no. But Skuntank is actually great support if he does happen to use a Memento set. Just chip away at his team with Exploud and these 2 Pokemon, and maybe set up an Agility Zapdos later on in the game. I like the fact that he has Zapdos paired with a lot of Pokemon that deal with Ground-type Pokemon. Goodra, Tangrowth, Swampert, Exploud. Even Mega Medicham to an extent, because Ice Punch does so much damage to Pokemon like Hippowdon, Landorus, Gliscor. Even Pokemon that are just 2 times weak to a Hippowdon, like I said. Clefable, it just deals well with them. You want to be able to deal damage to those just overall bulky Pokemon like Rhinoculus with Pokemon like Medicham, so that eventually later on in the game, if they are at like 40-50%, you can go out to Zapdos, be able to prevent them from recovering, and just be able to knock them out. So yeah, he doesn't have hazard removal, the greatest hazard removal. If he does use Zapdos for it, it's really only going to be used for itself, or to prevent stuff like Spikes and Sticky Web, which he is very vulnerable to. If his opponents do set up Sticky Web or Spikes, this Medicham is not going to be the greatest. Because even though Medicham doesn't have the greatest speed in 100, its main calling is to be able to do damage to Pokemon that are just slightly slower than it, like Kyurem, and just be able to knock them out in one hit. So Sticky Web and stuff like that are going to be very annoying for him, so we might be forced to use Defog. I think Skuntank also gets Defog, yep. So I don't believe Clefairy is a very good Pokemon for setting up Stealth Rock, so Swampert is going to be the main Stealth Rock user. And that is Nexus. And at number 6, I have Wolf's Team. Wolf's Team is actually so good, in my opinion, because of one Pokemon and one Pokemon alone. And that is Tornadus T. I'm a huge fan of this Pokemon. It's incredibly hard to KO when you give it an Assault Vest. You can give it Rocky Helmet and make it physically defensive, and just chip away at physical attackers to open up your way to maybe like a Scarf Extra sweep for him, or even Virizion. Virizion needs a lot of Pokemon Weekend for it to sweep, but it can go both sides. Calm Mind, Bulk Up. I think it gets Bulk Up, I'm not sure, but I know it gets Swords Dance. It has decent move pool for both physical and special because it gets stabbed. Grass Fighting coverage is incredible. Unfortunately, it doesn't have much coverage outside of that, but Grass Fighting is just so incredible. I don't think it's really necessary to go even further beyond that. He has the sand support with Excadrill and Gigalith. Excadrill, even by itself, it doesn't really need the sand support to be able to do a lot, but he has that just in case. The only thing that I don't really like about his team is that he can go, it feels like it's very defensive when he could go a little bit more offensive. For example, the Mandibuzz, I don't know why he has a Mandibuzz on his team when he has already a Tornadus, which can do a lot of things that Mandibuzz does, but a little bit better. For the most part, obviously Mandibuzz is a lot better at taking hits, but it's forced to utilize Roost to be able to do that, while Tornadus doesn't have to click Roost, they can just switch out. And allow you to gain momentum, while Mandibuzz loses the momentum for you. So like maybe having an offensive Pokemon in that slot would have been slightly better for Wolf to put more pressure on his opponents. He has excellent hazard support with the fact that Tornadus gets Defog, Mandibuzz gets Defog, and he has 2 premier Rabbit Spinners in Excadrill and Blastoise, as well as the fact that his Stealth Rock users are also pretty good. I believe Golem gets Stealth Rock. Yes, so he has 3 great Stealth Rock users in Excadrill, Gigalith, and Golem. Gigalith is actually very, very hard to KO, and with the Sand Chip, that's also going to allow him to support the Tornadus a little bit better, because Tornadus doesn't really take... it doesn't mind the sand damage because of Regenerator, and with, like I said, being able to utilize Rocky Helmet, Knockoff, U-Turn, and even like random Hurricanes here and there to just whittle down your opponents, it will open up a sweep for a late game Excadrill, a late game Gengar, a late game Virizion, or even Duosion going for Trick Room. And I do like the fact that he has Trick Room with Golem, because Golem is actually very, very strong and hits very, very hard. The only problem with Golem is that its coverage isn't the greatest and it has very, very pitiful speed. Trick Room alleviates one of that, and Team Matchup can help with the coverage for Golem. So it doesn't have to utilize... I mean, Golem actually has pretty good coverage. It does get fire moves, I believe, so it shouldn't be too bad. Especially in a format like this where you can pick and choose which moves you want and see what your opponent's switch-ins are to certain Pokemon. The only thing that I don't like outside of the Mandibuzz is the fact that he's lacking Spikes. Spikes would be so incredible for his team. He has Stealth Rock, he has Toxic Spikes and Weezing, but he doesn't have Spike, and I feel like Spike would be just putting his team over the edge. I would probably put him in the top 3 if he had a Pokemon that utilizes Spikes over Mandibuzz, just because of the fact that he has so many ways of dealing just little bits of damage to his opponent's team, and he has excellent ways to just seal the game later on in the game. I guess another thing that I guess you could attack his draft for, well, not really attack, criticize his draft for, is the lack of priority moves. I believe he's not, I think Gengar gets Sucker Punch, and I think that's it. Blastoise gets Aqua Jet. But outside of that, there's not really a whole lot of priority moves on his team, and priority really works well with being able to chip away at your opponent's team to be able to just get that last knockout instead of being forced to go out into one of your fast Pokemon to knock out one of their fast Pokemon. So yeah, just maybe Spikes and getting a little bit more priority on the team. So yeah, I really like Wolf's team. He would have been top 3 easily for me if he had Spikes on his team. Now moving on, we have the New Orleans Pelippers at 5. So I have him at 5 because basically just because of Salamence and Diancie. Those are just 2 very, very good Pokemon. I don't like the middle of his team that much. Diggersby I like, actually. Slowbro's actually very, very good support, but I don't know how well it's going to be able to support Salamence and Diancie that much. I can definitely happening, but I don't think it'll be that consistent. Salazzle's a great tier 3 pick, but I feel like Pokemon needed a Pokemon that can hit hard and can still take hits, and Salazzle can hit hard, but it can't take hits at all. Slowbro can't really hit that hard. It's using moves like Scald and Flamethrower and Ice Beam, and Psychic hits pretty hard though. And in terms of the general coverage, Psychic is pretty hard to switch into when you're trying to combat Slowbro. I like the fact that he has Mudsdale as a Stealth Rock user, because I really like bulky ground types as their Stealth Rock user. And with Mudsdale and its stamina, it's essentially just very difficult to KO, so even if they do decide to defog away the hazards, you're going to get multiple opportunities to set up the hazards because of Mudsdale's incredible bulk with the stamina. And paired up with Licky Licky Wish support, it's going to be pretty difficult to take down these 2 Pokemon, especially if he does make this specially defensive. And overall, I just like the heavy hitting power of Diancie and Salamence. And like I said, Stealth Rock is not going to be that game breaking. I'm predicting that in this format just because there's not a whole lot of great Stealth Rock users available to the teams, and the good Stealth Rock users might want to do other things like Landorus. Yeah, I can click Stealth Rock, or I can get a couple KOs with Z Stone Edge and Earthquake and Z Fly and U-turn and Knockoff. So yeah, I mean, it can get room for Stealth Rock, but it might want to defog too. Moving on, I have the NOIBATS at 4. And I believe the top 3 have very, very balanced teams. So the top 3 I think are just a step above in terms of team over the other 7 teams that are in the top 10. So honestly, I really like this team. Hydreigon with Steelix is, like, you don't really think of Hydreigon as a defensive Pokemon, but Hydreigon's actually incredible with Steelix. I really like bulky flying types paired with Steelix as a defensive core, because Steelix can take on so many attacks, and then the bulky flying type is able to just recover off a lot of those other special hits that Steelix can't really take that well. And the fact that Hydreigon's a dragon type means that it resists so many of the attacks that people are trying to aim at Steelix. Obviously, the physical fighting type attacks are not going to be that devastating to Steelix, even though it would be to Hydreigon. And if you're relying on Focus Blast to deal with Steelix, it's not going to be the greatest, obviously. But he has a Sylveon, and like, just the defensive backbone of his team is incredible, because the defensive backbone is also just his offense. And I really like that he's going to be able to switch between offense and defense very easily with his team. He has hazard support in Spike's Chestnut, Spike's Cloyster, Rapid Spin in these 2 Pokemon, Rapid Spin in Hydreigon, another defensive option. Does Thunders also gets defog, which I don't really like, but it can click defog. It's a great offensive option. You can go physical, you can go special. You don't really have to invest that much speed into it sometimes either if you want to go with an agility set. Cloyster is a decent win con occasionally. In normal, like, what, 12, 16 man leagues, I feel like Cloyster would be an average Pokemon, but in this type of league with 28 other people, where you don't really get all of the Pokemon that you really wanted, I feel like Cloyster is just so much better in being able to Shell Smash, being able to go for the Z Explosion or something like that, maybe a Z Waterfall just to do a Liquidation, just to do a little bit extra damage, Z Hydro Pump. Honestly, the only Pokemon that I don't really like on this team is Simipour. Swallow is just so good because it can go physical or special. It has the ability to pivot with Thundurus and Hydreigon with the Volt Switch U-turn combination into some of his heavy hitters. I really like this team. Now, the only problem that I have with this team is the fact that Steelix is the only Stealth Rock user. I don't like that at all. Forcing yourself to use your Steelix every week to use Stealth Rock. I feel like maybe if Simipour was a bulky Stealth Rock user, it would be so much better for him. Something like a Stunfisk or a Palossand maybe. I don't know how good Palossand is, but Stunfisk would be pretty decent for him. Just having another bulky Stealth Rock user so you don't have to rely on Steelix would be pretty good for him. And moving on, this is, like I said, the upper echelon of teams in the WBE. Oh my god, dude. Just looking at Mr. Talent's team, it's just so good. Latias, Buzzwole, Gyarados, Nihilego. These 4 Pokemon are premium Pokemon. These Pokemon are incredible. And the fact that he has all 4 of these, and these other Pokemon aren't awful, I really, really like that. The only thing that I would suggest to him is, I don't like this Houndoom pick. I don't know why there's a he has a pretty fast team. The speed that Houndoom provides, I don't understand the need for the speed here. It doesn't hit that hard. It's very frail. And I know that he had a mess up with picking Mega Aggron over Audino, so he had to make that switch there, which was kind of unfortunate in the draft, but you gotta do what you gotta do. He has good Stealth Rock users in Nihilego and Empoleon. Sometimes Nihilego doesn't want to use Stealth Rock, but he has so many threats on his team. Ambipom is such a good Nasty Plot with Hidden Power Technician boosted whenever you want. Tail Slat with King's Rock potentially sometimes. 115 speed. Great U-turn, great knockoff. This is just an incredible Pokemon at tier 4. Like I said, Houndoom is pretty much the only Pokemon that I feel like is a suspect Pokemon on his team. Audino too, but what are you gonna do? If you're picking the Latias, Buzzwole, Gyarados, and Nihilego, you're gonna have to pick an average Mega. If you had Mega Sceptile, ooh, this would probably, I don't know if I would put it top 1, but it would be incredible. Number 2, Patty Trills. I'm losing my voice right now, guys. I apologize. This team is just full of threats and just great backbone. Defensive backbone. Ferrothorn, Lando, Incineroar, Druddigon, Seismitoad. All these Pokemon can go offense, defense. Banded Ferrothorn, Banderis, Banderoar, Bandagon, Spexitoad. I just made all those up, but he can easily go anything with them. He has so many good resistances with all these Pokemon. Mega Alakazam is an incredible Pokemon to prevent you from losing to Swift Swim users, Excadrill, and other Pokemon that rely on weather settings and even terrain. Actually, it just loses to Hawlucha, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Okay? He has good Stealth Rock options in Seismitoad, Druddigon, Ferrothorn, Landorus. This is basically what's separating him from the other teams. Look at this. Sticky Web, 4 Stealth Rock users, all of which are just premium Stealth Rock users. Spikes on Ferrothorn. Ribombee has Sticky Web. It's just so incredible. He has Golbat for an emergency defog user in case he doesn't want to go with Landorus or doesn't want to go with Ribombee. Primeape is a great choice scarf user. Raichu is not the greatest Pokemon, but honestly, it's better than a lot of the other teams' tier 5s, and I just respect that a little bit. Like, Ribombee can go Quiver Dance to win a game. It can go Calm Mind, Baton Pass into Alakazam, into Raichu. Seismitoad can take hits. It's just, this is such a good team. This is such an incredible draft by Patty. And then number 1 is Free State Torracats, Dunkin' Knee Deep. This team is just so incredible. It has just so much power. 2 great Stealth Rock users, Cincharachi and Tyranitar. Tyranitar actually just doesn't die to super effective hits, which is so stupid, but so incredible at the same time. I don't think Duncan has one bad Pokemon on his team. Like, Lurantis is just so good with Contrary, Leaf Storm, superpower. The ability to be able to support the team with Defog as well. Lurantis just has so many good options. I don't believe he gets U-Turn. It would be such an incredible Pokemon if he got U-Turn. He does have great Volturn options with Jirachi, Xatu, Vikavolt. Zygarde is Zygarde is absolutely amazing. I don't know why it says Power Construct here. That thing is absolutely banned. He has just so much power on his team. Like, he picked Blacephalon and he picked Heatar. So he already picked one that counters 2 Blacephalon on his team. He picked a Revenge Killer for Blacephalon in Zygarde. He picked a Pokemon in Iraq when it can take a attack from Blacephalon. Blacephalon is such a good Pokemon when it just goes unanswered, obviously. And I'm not gonna lie, it's not that hard to answer, but there are some games where you can just weaken a team with Mind Blown. It gets the Z option with Z Mind Blown. It's just such a good Pokemon. Beast Boost is an incredible ability. And just the support that he has on his team. Like, Stalin can sweep a team. Vikavolt, I don't... like, Trick Room Jirachi into Vikavolt, like Trick Room U-Turn. Or Vikavolt can just go a little fast because he has Sticky Web here. Like, look at how many Pokemon just hit hard on his team. Blacephalon, Jirachi. I picked Jirachi here because not only can it get Calm Mind, but Iron Head is basically a 200 base power move. Almost. Like, a lot of the time it's just a 200 base power move on average. Zygarde hits incredibly hard with, like, it doesn't really hit incredibly hard, but whenever you go to Zygarde, you're always going to deal a little bit of damage, or you can just cripple something with Glare. And Glare also supports the Vikavolt as well. Hitmontop is a great support option for Blacephalon and Xatu and Vikavolt, being able to get rid of the hazards in case they do slip by, and set up hazards on the Xatu. And just a strong fighting type attacker is incredible. Like, this team is just, I feel like I said, there's not one bad Pokemon on the team, and everything on the team just hits hard. Like, what is the weakest Pokemon on this team? Is it Xatu? It's actually just Xatu, and it has 95 special attack. Technically, Araquanid is weaker, but like with Water Bubble, it just out damages Xatu so easily. And oh my gosh, like Duncan has such a good team. Like if this was a regular draft, this would still be a good team. So that is going to be it for my top 10 power rankings. Hope you guys enjoyed, and week 1 will commence soon. Hope you guys enjoyed the battles.